Hi everybody, Sherry here, and today I want to talk to you about anxiety. Yeah, it's something that affects us all to some degree. However, there are millions of people who actually have anxiety disorder, and it can be a really disruptive factor in life. Now, last week I wrote an article on Medium titled From Anxious to Effective Mining the Benefits of Anxiety. There's not a whole lot of them. And let me tell you, writing that article did catch up with me because while having anxiety does make you good at proactive coping, planning, motivation, sticking with your goals, you're doing it to kind of undermine the devil in you. Honestly, you really are. Isn't that right, guys? It's hard to deal with. It is a demon, and it is a thing that I hate about myself because, of course, writing that article, it kind of went downhill from there. And what I mean is, I had an anxiety attack on Sunday. It happens. It is something I have had my whole life, and I've been dealing with it very proactively over the last 2.5 years. I've learned a lot of tools and a lot of methods for handling it, and sometimes you've just got to reach in that toolbox and do the hardest thing, which is when you have anxiety and it just really ramps up. The hardest thing to do is to slow down and stop. And that's exactly what you have to do to get it under control. You have to stop the spiral. You have to just throw a wrench in the cycle and stop and really turn inward and explore what went wrong, what tipped you over the edge. Now, I can tell you, I've talked in previous videos and blogs, there's been a lot of changes in my life lately, and they have been good changes, haven't they, guys? They have been really good changes, and Zach and Bubbles are here to attest. You hear Chaka back there. He's still a little camera shy. We're going to get him here. He's a handsome boy. I do want you to see him, but he's still a little camera shy. But, that's rehabilitating him, getting him settled in a new home. It's been about 3 weeks. My husband being retired, refiguring our finances since paydays have changed, and so much of that's changed. Growing my writing, getting into the articles and nonfiction, getting back to my trilogy, getting it ready to release. Book 1 is coming out May 5th, actually. So while these are all exciting changes, you threw in changing routines. And then we had bad weather over the weekend. We were very fortunate. We had some light icing, but that was it. Praying for those of you who were impacted more by Winter Storm Fern. It was scary. And honestly, I snowballed. And in trying to prep, and the perfectionist in me caught up with me. And one thing that I realized is when you're trying to throw a wrench in that cycle and just get a grip on it, get back on track. And this was something that I learned yesterday through my prayer and meditation time, is anxiety and stress and worry are all signs that you're out of alignment. The secret is you've got to figure out how you're out of alignment to figure out how to get right. And my problem, and I don't know about the rest of you who struggle with anxiety, worry, fear, panic, but I realized after a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, I'm a Christian, you know that. So I'm just going to speak from my perspective here, flat out. I realized that my problem was when I got overboard with the perfectionist tendencies, I tended to trip over from things I could control to things I couldn't control. And that's when the anxiety got bad, was when I started getting wound up in things I couldn't control, like the weather, what's going to happen, what's going to be what it's going to be. And I crossed that line. And you see, here's the thing, is we all, there's things you can do and there's things that you just can't control. And that's when you really have to rely on faith. And sometimes I just forget where that line is and forget to realize that, hey, you've prepped, you've done all that you can. I did have to ask a couple of people for help with some things, and they helped. they stepped right up and they helped, and I was so grateful for that. But you just have to realize, you come to a point where you walk by faith and not by sight. And after a couple of days of prayer and meditation, I realized every time I've gotten into anxiety and had these attacks that just really set me back, it's because I've been trying to control things that only God can control. And it's time for me to let go. It is time. That's right, Chaka. You heard him back there, and Bubbles is over here bobbing her head. And, Zach's agreeing too. It's time. You got to let go and let God. You've got to really just trust that things will work out. And, I don't know why I do this. I would think being a lifelong Christian, born in the faith, lived my whole life in it, you'd think I'd know better, but we're human. We're not perfect. And it's like Paul said about the thorn in your side that reminds you to rely on the Lord. My thorn's anxiety. That's right, Chuck. My thorn is anxiety. And I don't struggle with it as much as I used to, but every now and then these attacks do flare up. And I have to take a step back and simplify. But let me tell you something, and the reason why I'm making this video today that's really interesting was because, I'm in prayer and meditation for this. And today is Tuesday as I write this, so it's been 2 days since I had my anxiety attack. Zach's getting excited about me telling this story because I just decided, okay, when I have anxiety attacks, it's time for some self-care. It's time to, pray, meditate, get to my routines, and just kind of simplify. So I decided, okay, we're going to strip it down, dress comfortably, just take care of myself, eat as well as I can, get back to my exercise routine. I didn't really get off of it. I was off for a couple of days. The fatigue and just the anxiety hangover. Hate that too. Here's the interesting thing that happened was when I finally just let go and got in prayer and, repented of losing my walk in faith. Let's get back on it. Just simplify, do what needs to be done, get back to the basics. Interesting thing happened yesterday. I came home from work and my sweet, sweet husband grilled burgers for supper out in the cold, just trying to help me out, just trying to, lend me a little extra support, take something off my plate, help me out there. I'm trying to lean over so you can see them because they move shoulders. And we sat down at supper and he said, hey, wasn't your meeting next week canceled? I was supposed to have a meeting at work next week on Wednesday. I said, yeah, people had schedule conflicts. We didn't have a lot of business. So yeah, it was canceled. And he said, there's a concert coming on Tuesday night. Are you interested in going? Now, this is something we hadn't planned on. It's an artist who is actually, it's their final tour. They're fixing to retire. So if we want to see them, it's going to be our last chance to do it. It is next week when that meeting would have been. That meeting was canceled last week. So a week before we even knew that this opportunity was going to be available, everything worked out for us to be able to do it and take some time off midweek, take advantage of his retirement, take advantage of my leave to be able to do this. It worked out. We did nothing. We did absolutely nothing. The Lord just kind of moved things and shifted them around where it worked out perfectly. We didn't have to do a thing. And it was just not that God has a single thing to prove to me or to anybody, but I was thankful for that because it just reminded me that when you let go, you make room for what is supposed to be. So if you struggle with anxiety, my advice to you is just accept it and do the best that you can, but take care of yourself. When to take a break and when it's just a sign that it's time to let go and reevaluate and just breathe. Always start with that. Just breathe. Okay. Zach and Bubbles took off, so I guess that means it's time for us to wrap up this video. But I just want those of you out there who struggle with anxiety to know you're not alone. And this is what the Broken Reality community is about. It's about us helping and supporting one another. So if you have any ideas, tips, suggestions that you've heard that I haven't mentioned here on dealing with anxiety, on healing from anxiety attacks, on getting back on track, back to your faith, back to just stability and back to yourself again, drop it in the comments. I welcome it. We are here to help and support one another and just be there in this journey called life. With that, I will say farewell for this time, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.